Hello everyone. All right, here we go. This is the 12 o'clock labs running light adapter right up here with the integrated directional driving lights LEDs that come if you buy the kit for the Zeta handguards. They come if you want with a integrated light kit, and this is what it is. Pretty much the lenses just fit over here in the handguards, and we're going to do that today. But first we need to wire up the 12 o'clock labs running light adapter. Why is that? Well, we'll get explained here in a second here, but it's pretty easy to figure out how to wire it. It says side A and B in the directions, but if you actually read through, which I did, there's absolutely no real direction to this unit. Both sides are identical. It doesn't matter which side you start with to what side. It doesn't matter. There's no right or left blinker. It's just this box will do what you need for each side. They're identically set up. So all you have to do is just make sure you wire in on the bike which side you want these to, obviously directional wise to use. Now, for the most part, we're going to go over the bike here and show you what we're going to do. What I would like to do, I already took some of this off, took the headlight off obviously, and it's very simple to do. It's just two bolts here, and you pull it straight off from these grommets here on the fender here. No big deal with that. Now I already pulled one of the wires out off the directional here. It's a 3-wire, as you can see, and if you noticed earlier that it's only a 2-wire LED system, because those are of direct power, one setting of light. There's no two. They're not set up to have multiple brightnesses like the rear brake light would. On these, this bike has a LED brake light, but it has a totally different setup to it than these do. These are two double filament bulbs in here, if you didn't know, and they are pretty much set up like this with the wires. Now you're gonna have to check with a light to make sure you know which wires are which. I already did that, but I'm gonna double check myself anyway. But one of these is power all the time for the one running light. The second one is intermittent power from the directional switch, which will give you the directional from the other filament that gets brighter and gives you the blinking, and the other one's just ground. That's very simple. That's all you need to know, and that's all you need to make it for the connections in this. Just connect these up to on the 12 o'clock labs running light kit exactly like that, and what it'll do is it'll intermittently power and unpower the directional LED so that it'll actually just flash. That's all it does. It just cuts the power from the main power, and that's what it does. So they take the signal from here and it just relays it and makes it flash. So that you don't need a double filament bulb. Now, that could actually work with many other systems. You don't even need that for the Zeta. It's not specifically for this. You can use it for any LED directionals you're going to want put in here. If you want to keep the same down low, you can buy. It'll work for any of them, and it's a pretty simple and easy device, and it comes to be not really expensive either. And for what it is, it just makes it so you can use a double 2-wire LED kit with a 3-wire system and make it directional and running light, which is what I want. I want to eliminate these and just put them up in there. It's going to be very simple and easy. Now, you don't have to do this. You can actually just wire it up as directional and no running light. Unfortunately, you can't do running light and directional unless you have that kit. I don't know what anybody else would do, but what I want to do is cut here. I'm not here, but further down, and cut this off, and then cut this off here, and obviously get this connector out of here. Haven't quite fished that out of there. You're gonna have to cut this wire zip tie, so just make sure you put it back where it was when you're done. There's a little spot for it right here, which makes it easy for all your bundles to just stick together. And I'm going to use this as a connector, so if I ever want to go back to original directional, I'll just be able to or another type, I'll just be able to unplug it, plug it back in. Any problems, breaks, whatever, no big deal. Just unplug it from the factory wiring harness. Don't even need to get into it, and this is all you need. Power, everything, and those will actually draw less power than those other bulbs, so you don't even have to worry about it, and everything's fused already in the system, so you don't have to even worry about that. And these are plenty long enough to reach anywhere you need. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to mount this, but it's probably going to be somewhere with that zip tie, and just make this as simple as possible. I pretty much look through the wiring, and it's so simple, it's not even funny. And all you're going to do is check the bike. Just make sure you check the bike and what those wires are. And what I'm going to do right now is just pull those directionals off the bike and get them over here on the table and check on the power and what color. They're both colored the same from the connector to the main wire harness. So once you know what it is, just make sure you write it down, and wire it up accordingly, and that'll give you a very simple way to connect it up and not have to worry any way about getting into the main wiring harness. I know some people may or may not have to worry about how exactly would I hitch it up. It is so simple on the WR to get at these directionals and these main wires. It's probably the best way to do it. It doesn't explain anything about where to hook it up. Actually, it says you can get main power for the running light anywhere, but you don't need to worry about it. It is pretty much all right here, and it will not draw anywhere near as much power as these do. So you don't even have to worry about how much power you're going to be, if you're going to be over bearing on the system, because you're not really changing, you're making it actually less power. So what we're going to do is pretty much figure out how to get the rest of this, whether it's somewhere in here. I know it is, I think it's right here. Figure out where that connector is, disconnect it. It's very simple to do, and we'll try to keep this almost looking stock with we'll slide these back over it when we're done, and somewhere mount the 12 o'clock running light adapter in here, which looks like I got some space here to just to zip tie it. And all you're gonna do is run your wires over to the hand guards, which is why we're gonna cut this right now, and I'm gonna just snip everything right here so I can clearly see what we're doing, and we'll get everything on the bench. So we'll be right back. Alright, what we're going to do right now is test, now that I got everything out of the way and everything's disconnected, we're going to test which is power, which is ground, and which is the intermediate. Now you're going to be able to tell in the back here, just by pulling this backwards, there's a blue, there's a black, and then there's a kind of a gray wire in there. I'm not really sure. It's you can see it better on the other one, but what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to tell which is which, and pretty much you need to know what the blue is, which is constant power. Now these two here you can't tell because they're not running right now, so one of them's got to be the directional. We'll just turn it on. Of course, make sure you turn the correct side on, and it's flashing pretty brightly. Flash quickly because we don't have it connected, but as you can see, the bottom one right here is the directional. So constant power, directional, and ground. Now write these down when you get a second, and always check the other side as well, because you don't want to be screwing that up and having it be different on each side. You can tell with the connector, if you can't see this has got those tubing around it. You should be able to pull it back actually and see somewhat, but make sure that the wires correspond the same as, and yeah, there's a brown. That is a brown actually. So it's a blue, a brown, and a black. So the brown is, sorry, let's see here. My God. Oh, if we should have power somewhere. Did I fall off my connection? Oh, I just got a connection there. Okay, this is power. Power here is the blue. Blue comes in the top here. Or, well, how I'm holding it anyway. It's not really the top. And it's got full power. Boom. So, can't see that. Yeah, see full power. Constant. Then we got the directional going. And nothing here. Oh, there we go. So we got blinking right there, which is the brown. So the brown wire, which is this one right here, is directional. Power is blue. Black is ground or negative. So that's that, and it's the same on this side. We'll double check that. Blue power. Brown is this bottom one here, which I don't have it on. Yep, and black is ground. So that's all you need to know to wire it up over there on the bench. And you can actually get everything together over there, no problem. And it's a nice handy dandy little simple tool here. This one happens to be made by Snap-on, but you can have any kind of lighty tool like this is going to work perfectly for you to just test that. And if you don't have a WR, I suggest you check it anyways. If you do, actually, I should say, because you never know. Somebody could have done something funky at the, in the building of it and screwed up something. Who knows? You always just check yourself. That's all. So that's that. We're gonna go write that down, and just so I don't confuse myself later on, and get this pretty much wired up. Be right back with you. Jeez, yeah, I know I wind my stuff together. It's horrible, but it keeps it from getting tangled in the box here. And there, it's a lovely toolbox, I swear. All right, next, I believe the best and easiest way to do this, because you're gonna pretty much now be ready to wire this all up, and they come with all connectors. 12 O'Clock Labs and the Zeta kit has their own connectors. I put them over here between the two. They all have connectors and everything you kind of need. The 12 O'Clock Labs, I believe, has all the connectors you need to do everything, but you still have extras from the Zeta kit anyway. What you're going to want to do is, I believe this is going to be the way I want to do it. You can do this obviously quite a few different ways. Just pay attention to your wiring diagram here, and as I said, there's no I mean, I don't know if I actually explained this to you yet. There is no right or left on this device. It is 100% wired, and says it right in the directions too. There's not me saying this, it's in the directions. There is no right or wrong way to wire this as far as right and left. These wires are one side and the other side. They don't necessarily correspond to right or left. It's just two different sides for both, you know, so you can get two. You can do wire up both directionals. There's no siding to this. It doesn't matter, no right or left. You just wire it one way and for one and the other, and just make sure when you hook them onto the bike that you've got them on the right side. That's all. It doesn't matter which way this block goes. It's just wired exactly for one and the other to work for however the power inputs into it. They're both identical circuits inside here. So that's all 12 O'Clock Labs has to say about wiring, and it's just the white. Here it tells you white is the turn signal positive lead going to the motorcycle wiring harness. Red is any 12 power DC source switch for the ignition, which is going to be already set up on the bike, which is actually our blue on the bike. Black is ground, which is same on the bike. Blue is the light bulb for the LED positive lead, and the black is the bulb for the ground negative for the lead. So you're going to need to just wire it up accordingly to what, you know, on the wiring harness. It says it'll tell you the light as the two blue and the black on this. So the blue and the black on the end, and they do show you the two different ones here. So you actually have two blacks in here. One's going to be negative to the bike up to the black on the light, and one of these is going to be black to the negative on the wiring harness. And it pretty much is simple enough to wire that up, no problem. And I'm just going to put the connectors all on this. Just do all the connectors, and I'm not going to use these rubber connectors. You can solder this. There's many ways you can do that, is what I was trying to get at earlier. Is you don't have to you know, do it this way. There's many different ways. Other people might have a lot better ways if you talk to them, they solder them, or they, you know, for a permanent connection right there, and you pretty much have to cut them out if there's a problem. Me, I'm going to use the connectors just because I feel they're going to be just fine, and it gives me a way that if anything ever happens to this block, shorts out, fails eventually in its lifetime, all I have to do is cut the little, I have some tubing here, should shrink wrap, I'm going to put over the connector, and that's going to just kind of tie it together. And if I ever have to take it apart, you just cut the rubber there, and it should be able to pop them out and pop a new one in, no problem, and just put another piece of shrink tubing over it. That's my way, and I'll still have the factory wiring harness connector. I'm just going to cut them off of here. Still be able to, I can still, I don't know, make reconnect these if I absolutely wanted to, but I'll have a factory connector here, which I'll know is good, and will be able to be popped out at any time, and pretty much do whatever the heck I want with it later on, and not have to actually get into any factory wiring on the bike. The bike is completely the same, and if I do want to buy another directional later on, if I decide that this is, you know, I destroyed or I don't want to mess with it, I can actually put a factory wiring harness, light, everything back on the bike, no problem. And this is a very common light. This is the identical light to what I have on another bike, my other one, and I have no doubt in my mind, other than probably the bracket here is probably different, you can pretty much find these anywhere. They should be readily available, so you're not going to have any problems with that. Also, just as a word of note, the black one is the right directional, and the gray is the left. That is something I'm going to try to correspond still to this. I don't want to mix them up. The connectors are identical, but that just gives you, you know, everything's going to go right back together the way it should. And just accordingly to, as I said before, you got to check to make sure that these wires do correspond exactly how you thought they did on the bike. So I've just checked that it is correct on mine anyway, that the blue lines up with the blue on that bike. It's like it should. I don't see why it wouldn't, but it's always good to check. Now, this one is actually, if you notice that this is actually a green on the black over here, it looks green to me, and this is brown on the gray, but just remember that odd color one, because the black is always brown on these so far, it's been the same, but this is a brown and this is a green on this side. I don't know why they did that, but they did it, so you're going to see actually two different colors there, but they are, just make sure you know that they are what they are and write it down so you don't get yourself confused or mixed up. Now I'm just going to quickly, all I'm going to do is put the connectors on here and on the lights here, and cut these out and wire them up. So I'm going to go do that. It's going to be not really need to film that, so I'm just going to do that, and I'll be right back, and we'll stop putting everything back on the bike. And yeah, I'll also install the lights onto the hand guards, which I'll show you. I've heard something about siliconing a little bit in there to make them stick so they don't, no chance of falling out. I'm not really sure, because they do screw together, and it doesn't look like they'll just come apart, but someone said there's a good idea to do it, because I guess it just screws right into the plastic here, and maybe not a bad idea just to, you know, as you put it together, just put a little stab of silicone so they just wedge themselves together like that, and they don't want to pop out. You know, the screws are pretty small, and I guess a pretty good hit could do that. So that's a little simple tip someone else had said about them, and I think that'll pretty much make it simple enough. They do fit tight. I already tried to put them in. I'm gonna have to kind of pop them in there, so they do fit tight in the plastic. I don't think I'll have to trim anything. I think it'll just a matter of getting it. It's hard to do it on the bike. You have to take them off, but nothing major on that one. So we're gonna do that, and be right back. Alright, now I got everything hooked back up again here. We just pretty much, I don't have anything locked in just in case we have any problems, but just to show you how it is, it's exactly how it was supposed to be in the diagram. Nothing spectacularly strange about the wiring that you had to really figure out. It was cut very simple, simplistic, and as you can see, we have lights, and I might have this not set up right, but there you go. Directional. They flash fast, but we're going to fix that. I got the other kit for that, and there you go. So, well, those are pretty bright, actually. I mean, I have to admit when they're sitting straight at you, but there you go. Directionals and driving lights. So, very simplistic, easy, and I know the box works before we put all the effort into setting it all in there. It's always a good thing to test everything before you do a final connection and install, because I'm going to have to run the wire through here and all that fun stuff and get those lights in here, and I may not be able to do it easily with it all connected anyway. So you know, but to, you know, get it all in there and then find out something's wrong obviously would be tragic and a pain in the ass. So that'll be pretty much the next step, is getting everything wired in, but since it's a known working system, we're good to go. I don't think I showed you this before. It is waterproofed. It's got all the, it is, you know, resin was poured in there to keep the block from getting wet, so you shouldn't have to worry about it getting wet. Just mainly just keep it from getting knocked around. And the directions are pretty easy to do. I guess if you have a Honda, you got some other stuff you got to kind of go through to get the power, I guess it looks like. Not really sure. It's got a lot of different wirings, but the WR250R, or probably X as well, it looks to be pretty simple, and I didn't have to cut any wires. And the next step here, which I'm actually going to show you as soon as I figure out what I need to do with it, because I haven't really looked into it, is the 12 o'clock flash rate turn signal flasher adapter here, which is pretty much a better than the resistors, I guess. It says it uses up less power. I did read that, and won't heat up as much as the you know, resistors and stuff that you need to. Pretty much it says direct plug and play OEM replacement. That's what they said online. That's what they say here. It's going to be simple once I figure out where the module is in the bike, which I think is on that side panel, which, if I'm not mistaken, they showed on something else I saw online. Let's see here. Yeah, it's right on the side here. So I just got to pull the panel off, I guess, and go find it. All right. this is actually something I want to go over with you because it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. In this picture, it's so very hard to see exactly what they're looking at. It kind of resembles, but I also have a battery tender thing which kind of hit it. I gotta pull out of the way. But this here is your flasher right here. And you'll tell because it's got the connector that matches up with this. So if you're pulling something out and it doesn't have the connector that matches this, 2 wires, don't take it apart because it's not right. It has just 2 wires going to it. It's right in there, and just push on the tab and it pulls right out. There you go. And you can see it says FE246BH on it. So when you see that, you know that's the flasher module. Now, if you notice, this is like tiny compared to that, and it just plugs right in. You know, I'm gonna go one way and snaps right in there. Now you're gonna just kind of probably run the boot back up it, but you're gonna have a little bit of a pain in the ass time probably securing it to something because it doesn't quite fit where it was before. So zip tie it, do something, I don't know, we'll figure something out, but we'll just tie it down here, zip tie it to secure it, I should say, and that will alleviate any chance that it's going to get hurt. This is a little piece of plastic here. It's not metal, but I don't know, maybe I'll come up with a way to just go around it to tie it in there. But that's it. That's all that is to the directional flasher. And while we have it there, we're all set in the front here to actually test it out to make sure we actually have a good connections and that we're back in order. I kind of didn't run the wires 100% yet, but it looks like I'm going to more or less just zip tie it here and there and run it through here, zip tie it here and here, and then just bundle it up and probably put 2 more zip ties in there. Same on both sides. Very simple. It looks like it's going to be out of the way of the headlight, everything, even though it's a little bit bigger bundle. It seems like it fits fine without any issues. And there you have it. We have running lights and proper directional flash. Well, what do you know? And there you have it. And they're opposite of the rears because that's how they work, because you're not adding another, I don't know, which is actually, that is kind of weird, but no, that's because that's how they run. It's just, these, when they get power, they go out. When that gets power, they go on. That's why they're opposite. That's why. So that's normal. You're not going to get away from that because the power hits the relay right here and it shuts off the power to that whenever it gets powered from the directional side. So that's why you have no power in the rear when these are on and power in the rear when they're off. If I said that correctly, it'll sound cool, but whatever. Anyway, so that's normal. So now and then we have our running lights, perfect. And they run really bright for the most part. I think they're a hell of a lot brighter running lights too, which makes it kind of an extra win on that, because now you have full-on power LEDs versus just the lower light of the standard running lights. So now you have a full bright LED, which really is visible. I feel that'll be pretty decent visibility out of these, no problem. And they're kind of bitching there. I think it's going to look really good with a cleaned up, not that big hunking directional on the side. So good to you, Zeta. You made a pretty cool kit there. I think that looks nice, and we'll just get this all tidied up and zip tied and secured, so we're not going to wreck anything, and clean that up a little bit where the wires run, and I think we're good to go. But yeah, that is nice and beautiful. I think let's get it together and I'll show you the final results. All right, I did come up with something interesting. Now, the original blinker block had the rubber mount stuck on it, so what I did is I pulled the rubber mount off and I put it back here. Now, make your directional block kind of rest up against it, and you can just throw a zip tie around it and secure it, and I think you'll have a nice little kind of insulated kind of rubber mount like the other one was, without actually having, because I don't think you can, it doesn't really fit anywhere else around it. So you just kind of zip tie it around and you should secure it pretty well once you get your fingers in there, and that'll might give you a better, you know, absorption from it getting slammed around in there, and keep a little bit like keep the rubber mount type situation going, and I think that'll be pretty good. Now you probably can zip it around anywhere else, maybe go around the back of it, just gives it some cushion here. I think that'd be kind of a better thing than just directly tying it back into the plastic. Not that it probably would be a real issue, but I just saw that on there. I'm like, I wonder if I can reutilize that. You could probably cut some of it off too if you really wanted to, and you know, just make the rubber back there and maybe zip tie it around it. Alright, we're back together, and in short, they work great. I love the look, and the LEDs are a lot brighter than stock, and if you take a look here, you know, the way they flash now, they actually fully turn off, but they go full bright and they shut off, which I think is a lot better visual. So I really do like that a lot. And they just are, I think, so good looking. It's personal preference whether you like them like this or not. I obviously do like this look, and it just to me is awesome. And if you are wanting to get into a project like this, I do say that it is not that bad with the 12 O'Clock Labs products. It's very simple to do and follow the directions and just wire it in. The only extra things I needed to do this project was some electrical tape and some extra zip ties, really, and it all came together perfectly. And just pay attention to your electrical stuff and take your time with it. No need to rush it, and boom, you are set to go. And the only thing I would recommend is when I did this, if you're doing the Zeta integrated lights, they do make these really long wires, and I didn't cut them back, so I had a lot of wires and stuff in there, and it's not necessary. You can cut them back. Just make sure you know how long you want them to go and run them, and then just snip them, then put your connectors on them. And 12 O'Clock Labs products, as I said, worked perfectly, and I couldn't be happier with it. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this helps you out. Yeah, looks good.